Hey guys, welcome to the Revenue Accelerator with the most sophisticated intro. You just heard it. So I have today Tobin Slaven?
Long A, Slaven, actually. Yeah.
Slaven, like Slaven. Okay.
Yeah.
He who is a slave for profits and revenues and all things sales. So he loves it. He does it. He's going to do a little bit of an intro of himself because you do it better than I do. And then we're just going to kind of dive in and see where this conversation goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to be here. You are a rock star in this world. So I imagine that your podcast community is, like attracts like. So excited to share some time with all you folks out there.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about you, hashtag slave map, sales map, right? It's
Sales
a
map, yeah.
thing. And kind of what you're working on these days, because you are a man who has his hands in many a cookie jar.
Yeah, well, so our story, Sales Map, is a partnership. There's actually three businesses, and we joined together last fall because we realized that we were each doing something unique, but we didn't have the full picture. And the other players, my partners, they each had a piece as well. And when you put the three puzzle pieces together, we've just been stoked. And our area of specialty is actually helping expert-based businesses bring on a sales team. So if you are the sole rainmaker in your business and you want to shift more into that CEO role, you want to spend more time with your clients or whatever your area of genius is, if it's not sales and marketing, those are the folks that we're helping. And we actually recruit, train, and certify business development people so that we can match them up with our clients. So I say business development, we actually do have some closers as well, but what we found the market was really interested in, and what I know you're a rock star at yourself, is actually just being able to go out and generate leads, create conversations, and bring deals to the table. Because most entrepreneurs, like, it's in us. We have those conversations and we can sell because it's part of the vision of what we're doing. We believe and have that conviction. But when you're ready to grow, you don't want to be the bottleneck on your business.
Absolutely. Well, whenever, right? So every phase is a new level of opportunity for growth. So what platforms do you prefer when it comes to kind of the training that you provide and certify?
So I'm a strong believer in a multi-channel approach because that's how we talk to our friends and family. And so when we're creating conversations, it's very organic, it's very personal. Like when someone gets a message from someone on our team, 100% they know it was a message meant for them, not meant for anyone else. There's no copy and paste, there's no automation involved. So really building real relationships is the key. And whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or email, to me, that's all plumbing. But those are the big three that we tend to focus on. I'm not saying you can't do lead gen on Twitter or Instagram, but those are not my strongest areas. And there's more than enough business on the big three. I call them, for us, it's the big three. I probably spend more than half my time on LinkedIn. Not because we do all, it's a be all end all, but there's so much valuable information in the profile in LinkedIn. So even if you're conversing with someone on Facebook, one of the first things I'll do is copy and paste their name, not the messaging, but copy and paste their name over into LinkedIn so I can search them, find out who they are, like what have they been doing, how do they position themselves there, and we have much better conversations. So I'm constantly jumping back and forth between platforms.
Well, and one of the things you can see too is the congruency. So is the message that they're sharing on Facebook the same as it is on LinkedIn? And if it's not, probably costing you some sales.
Right. Or not. When you said the congruency or not, because you're 100% right there. People on LinkedIn are thinking a little bit more in the business conversation, but as you know, on Facebook, like you meet someone new, you have no idea like what they're doing. Most people have not optimized Facebook for a profile funnel. That's terminology that we use in our world. I don't know if it's different for the lead boss community, but we talk about profile funnels. Turn your profile into a sales funnel. So again, having that continuity between LinkedIn and Facebook, and people know who you are, what you do, and why they should care. If you can nail that, it makes life so much easier.
Well, and all of that has to do with, I talk a lot about your business has nothing to do with you. And your business should reflect how the other person can see themselves as, you being the future state. what are you seeing people making in terms of mistakes? And I just kind of hinted at one.
Yes.
If you didn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
What are the 3 mistakes? I gave you one. Come up with 2 more that you're seeing people make when it comes to their profile funnel, if you will.
Well, I mean, the first one is the resume approach. So particularly, again, you don't see this as much on Facebook because people maybe started using Facebook for friends and family and other stuff. And so they've got that piece. But on LinkedIn, 100%, and this goes back to how LinkedIn was launched, actually, when it first came on the scene, you did fill it in like, this is your work history. They were prompting you with questions that basically made it a digital resume. But to your point, if you really want to engage with the people you're most excited to do business with, you have to take your profile and make it about them, or make it about the outcomes that you're able to bring to the table. And you know you're successful when people will say, so I saw your profile, like, how do you do that? If they're asking you curiosity questions, you've got the process moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And there's not a right and wrong approach to the profile funnel. It's more like you're constantly testing and optimizing. And when your messaging is right, you can feel the alignment because people start showing up out of the blue. Like, I don't know where I met this person, but now they're in your sphere of influence because the profile drew them in. The second thing that we see is, honestly, it's the bad data analogy. Like, I know everyone in marketing is using this, but I had a guy, I'm not going to name names. I'm not into, we're all out there working hard to grow our businesses. But I had a guy who showed up in my inbox on LinkedIn yesterday, or actually over the last week or so, and it was 4 straight messages in a row. I never answered any of them. Each message was probably 5 or 6 paragraphs long with a link at the end.
Yeah.
There was no engagement, no conversation, no attempt. I don't think it mattered who I was on the other end. Like, he wasn't trying to engage with me. He was just trying to drop stuff on me. And then the last message was, hey, since you didn't answer, I'm out of here. I'm like, we won't be talking anymore. And I'm like, if someone called me out of the blue and said, hey, I'm not going to be calling you anymore, I'd be okay. And that was I said, dude, look at what you sent to me. Like, you actually are doing some really interesting things that would have caught my interest if we could have had a conversation here.
That, or the guy who adds you to their CRM right off the bat by taking your email from LinkedIn without any permission. We call him Pitchy Pete in our and we see him on LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that platform has become marked that way. But I consider this, if you're doing it differently and if you're building genuine relationships there, you stand out from the crowd. So I think it's a huge opportunity for us to do it right. And here's the truth. These folks that are, one, using automation, or two, like, trying to do the leg humper approach to get business, they're not going to do it long term. Right? It's not working so well that they're going to be doing this for months and months going forward. They're going to try it. They're going to get frustrated with the results too, and they'll look for a better approach. So I don't mind. And the other thing is, a lot of people, like, LinkedIn's hot right now. People know there's a lot of business happening and being generated there. So a lot of new people have come onto the platform and they're trying new things. So they're going to try, and they'll get frustrated, and they'll find something better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and we've all seen it. We've all gone through it. I went through a period of automation, and it started.
Yeah, we did too. We tested it. It was just a bad experience for everyone involved.
Building relationships, kind of core foundational concepts of business, whether you're online or offline, it doesn't matter. I mean, now we've got this whole social distancing thing going on. So even more important to build relationships, because you're turning people off a lot faster by doing this pitchy Pete approach. So what are you seeing as the differences between approaching maybe a larger company? So let's say someone who kind of works with, larger corporations versus a smaller B2B, maybe a coach to coach, or, versus a, coach to, or an executive coach to a large company. What are the differences in terms of approach? And is there one?
Yeah, there definitely is. So our ideal clients for SalesMap itself are actually the entrepreneurs. And one of the reasons we chose to go there, several of us, of the partners, actually do have corporate backgrounds, and we left that world for a reason. And we love working with entrepreneurs because they're literally, changing and creating the world around us. We love the energy, being able to
Yeah.
talk directly to decision makers, and it's transformational work. It's changing lives
Amen.
on the home front. So that's why we chose to do the work, and we're specifically focused on entrepreneurs who are in the B2B space. Some of our clients, however, are working with CEOs or the C-suite. And the big difference that you see there is when you reach those levels in big organizations, one, that obviously there's different layers that you have to go through to even find or get to the right person. There's a process for that. There's a way to sort of introduce yourselves to folks and say, who should I be talking to about this? And a lot of times people, if you ask for help, people will guide you. The other thing is you have to be spot on with your messaging, because they're not going to go through rounds of, like, you could probably get these messages too, but someone will show up in your inbox and say, so Kat, tell me why you got into, and it's like, okay, if I was stuck on an elevator with you and the elevator broke and we had 45 minutes while they were fixing it, we could probably have this conversation. But why are you asking me this? Like, what's the relevancy? And that question is turned up to 11 for CEOs, because they're very, very stringent with their time. They have a lot of demands on their time. So you can't be pitchy, but at the same time, they have to know what's in it for them right from the get-go, or you won't get their attention at all.
Absolutely. Well, and again, it's about building the relationship, but knowing who you're talking to. So lately I've been talking a little bit about, people tend to sell the way that they buy instead of looking at how do people want to buy and then sell them that way. And it just changes the dynamic in which you engage someone. So the same level of sales calls will produce more clients, because instead of selling the way you want to be sold, they're now being sold the way they want to buy. So what are you seeing online in terms of time frame? So some people are like, I want to close clients now, the next 24 hours. And one of the biggest things that people kind of struggle with is that sales turnaround pipeline frame. I totally am like blanking out on the word, but you know what I'm saying?
Moving them through the pipeline from
Yeah.
the speed, the velocity of
Right.
from new contact. Yeah. I think, to
I like
me, a
that lead
lot of that
velocity. To look into that.
a lot of that depends on the person that you're talking to. So we've met people, and we had a client who enrolled last week, and it went from first contact to enrolling. I think it was like 72 hours. It was very a short amount of time. So it can happen very quickly if the person is in the right, they have the right need at the time, they're in the right stage of the business, like they're looking for a solution, they just don't realize it's you. That conversation can develop very quickly. Other relationships, people buy when they're ready to buy, not when we're ready to sell them, right? So sometimes those, I hear this from a lot of folks, they'll say, well, this person was on my email list, I didn't even know who they were, they've been there baking, cooking for the last years, just sort of coming into, and that's that they've entered your sphere of influence, and they're getting to know you and how you see the world, and trying to figure out where they fit in your world. And eventually that leads to that first a conversation and then a sales conversation.
Yeah. And that's why your 3-pronged approach, which I follow as well, which is the Facebook, the LinkedIn, and the email marketing, kind of helps meet the person where they're at and then warm them up in the way that they need to be so that they can finally raise their hand. So what are you seeing people struggle with when they've been trying to do it for themselves and now they're, wanting to expand and maybe focus on more the customer relationship side of things or delivery, and less on the sales and marketing? Like, what makes it like a clear indicator that they're ready to use you guys in coming in and helping build that sales team?
Mm-hmm. You actually have a couple questions in there. So
Sure.
I'm gonna work in reverse order. You might have to remind me on the first part of the question, because it echoed what you said earlier about the mistakes. And I have an answer for that I want to share that I think will be really impactful for folks. But to answer your last one, just because it's fresh on the top of my mind, what would make someone right for us is if they're like a 6-figure business and they've kind of gotten stuck at an income level. So they're doing 6 figures, maybe low, a couple $100,000 or whatever, but it's themselves, or maybe themselves in a small team. They've got a VA or folks like that, like on the operations fulfillment side. Yeah. But the business is not growing and they want to go to 500,000, 750,000, 7 figures, over $1 million. Like, that is who we're talking to and working through that process. Right. And they're selling high ticket programs. If they're in the B2C space and they're selling, $100 widgets or whatever it is, they're also not the right fit for us. But we're pretty we're still a small team and we're pretty focused on what we do. To go back to the mistake piece, or where I see some folks sort of struggling, is, so the first one you've probably seen is the content approach. There are a lot of folks out there that teach content marketing as the way to go get your ideal clients. And what I do agree with is that when someone has been consuming your content, they are so much better for you because they've already entered your world. They've decided they either know you and like you through your content, or they don't. And if they don't, then they leave, and you don't spend your time spinning your wheels with those folks. So content marketing is really effective at that piece, but we end up sitting around waiting. Like, no, even if you're creating content every single day, you don't know when that content is actually going to produce a prospect or a lead into your world. So the methodology we've been using, I call it the 4 gears of marketing. And we draw an analogy to the metaphor of driving your car, which is, fourth gear that's funnels and automation and paid traffic and all the marketing stuff that most of the gurus are selling. It's awesome. When you're cruising down the interstate at 80 miles an hour, fourth gear that's a fun place to be. Right. But it's not where you start. And so if you do the other gears and you sort of rev up the engine
if you
and
try
shift,
to get there.
yeah, right. To get out of the parking lot, you want to be in first gear, not even second. So for us, conversational outreach is first gear. We meet people, we build real relationships, we nail the messaging, the offer, the messaging, the market, like all that gets dialed in first gear, and that gets you out of the parking lot. You go down the street in second gear, right? You shift into second gear, and that's where the content marketing can be really effective, because now if you use content to have better conversations in first gear, the 2 gears play off each other.
Yeah.
Right? Just like we drive, we shift back and forth, and it's really effective, and you get better results on both sides, right? Instead of just trying to put all the weight on the content marketing. For us, third gear is collaborations or champions, strategic partnerships. Like, who are the people that already have the trust? They have the ear of the market that you want to work with. If you can build those relationships, third gear, it's in many ways very similar to first, but because you still have to build real relationships to get there, but it's sort of a higher level. And that gets you on the on-ramp and gets you set up, because when you do the first 3, now all of a sudden, when you do go into for example, a paid traffic with a funnel, you've got your messaging nailed in. You're going to get to ROI that much more quickly. You still have to test it. We all do. But I don't know about you, Kat, I had years of trying to make those paid funnels work and spending money, and I was ROI negative and so frustrated. And like, it just, honestly, it kicked the shit out of me. And
well, we got sold. Right. Which is why we are so focused on the relationship, because, a lot of times you'll see the person, when you have a value that you really, really honor, when it get dishonored, right, it makes you show up in a bigger and louder way. So relationships are key to us, because those values weren't honored when it comes to the funnel and things like that, because
and one client can change your business forever, right? The right client becomes the killer case study that brings dozens of other clients. The one right client, may become a strategic partner. Like, it might produce a media opportunity in the right place at the right time that explodes, like the Oprah effect, as they call it. Like, we're literally the one conversation away from bringing that person into our world that changes the trajectory forever. So real relationships, I'm all in.
Well, and a repeatable
here's
process.
my reform story. I was a list builder. Like, I was an email marketing list builder. That was my background for about a dozen years. And now I'm a trader. I quit that team and I went over to the other side, and I'm playing for the enemy, and I'm doing one-to-one messages. And I'm not against, email marketing, because we use it too. But the days of push send and blast out a message to everybody on your list and think that people are actually reading those messages, the numbers it's like 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. Whereas what we're doing, building real relationships, 8 or 9 out of 10 people are reading and responding to those conversations. So to me, I like where I am now.
I'm a big advocate of putting effort into being lazy. So I rather have those stronger, smaller conversations that convert at a higher level. It's also how we serve at a higher level. Because when you're just email blasting and doing that stuff, I mean, what's the real value of that $9,700 whatever product that you're pushing out there?
we hide a little bit in our marketing. I did. Maybe somebody else out there is resonating with this, but when you have funnels, when you have email campaigns or automation or all those marketing things, we're kind of hiding, and it's created a distance between us and the other person. And sometimes it's scary to actually talk to the other person on a Zoom call because they might say no. But it's actually those conversations, yes, no, or maybe, or otherwise, whatever you learn, those conversations actually move you miles ahead. And, again, the idea of going to bed at night and showing up in the morning, you wake up in the morning and the bank account's full with, all these new transactions. It's great. And you can get there. There are businesses doing that. But a lot of the people selling that dream, they had the first, second, and third gear to get them there.
Well, and if you think about it too, they probably have the infrastructure, they have the people, they have proven processes. They probably have a self-liquidating funnel, which means that they're not making any money off that funnel. Where they're making their money is actually at the high ticket conversion. So they're taking that low dollar offer and they're trying to convert that person into a higher ticket sale, which still comes down to having to get on the phone and having a conversation.
Yeah. 100%. That stuff is just not in place from day one, but you can go do first gear, the conversational approach. You can go do it like as soon as this podcast ends. You can go reach out to some folks and have a real conversation and ask some questions so you get to know where they're at in their world. And you and I have a common background working with Adam as one of our coaches, but he has the time has never been better for those conversations, right? And you are the perfect example of this, because your world, like here, everyone's talking about this COVID crisis and, what are you going to do when you come out? Don't wait, do it now, because people are growing and hiring. We're hiring at SalesMap. We're looking for more biz dev people right now. Janet, one of my partners, I think Janet Clark. So she's closed in the last 3 weeks. I think she said she's up over 250,000. So some of it for SalesMap, but she also works with some other teams as well. Business is happening, and there's no reason to hold back. Get out there, have the conversations, because there are folks moving forward, and then there are other people that are hunkered down. So
yeah, I mean, there's a million excuses not to do something. You just need to find the one reason to do it. And hold on and hold fast to that reason, because the excuses, they're everywhere. And when you're looking for them, you can find them. And it's, our clients are already around us. People are always talking about, well, where's my next client? You're probably already talking to them. You just haven't provided them the opportunity to say yes. So Tobin, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about the Sales Map, and, looking at starting to, include more of a team in their business when they want to start focusing on the different components of the business? Basically, the question is, how can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I actually, I have a website, it's tobinslaven.com, but I think look for me on the social platform. So I'm happy to chat with you on Facebook. I'm happy to meet you on LinkedIn, reach out, mention. It's useful for me to know where folks come from. So if you heard the podcast, just mention that. But I do, I eat my own dog food. This is what I do. I talk to people each day, and, if folks aren't a fit for what we do, which most people aren't, that's fine. We have a ton of experts in our network that I'm constantly introducing people back and forth. So I see my role as as part of the partnership as being that connector. But if you're out there and you've been thinking about, or you want to bring on a sales team, initially it might be one person that's just out there bringing deals to you so that you can close them and enroll them into your programs. Love to have a conversation. Not everyone is sales team ready. And so the first thing we do is try to figure that question out. What do you need to be ready for that process?
Right. So be warned, it's not necessarily going to be a pitch. It's about first figuring out whether or not it's a right fit, and then providing you the resources that are going to help you in your business. And whether or not that's you, it doesn't matter. I know you're from a place of service first, and you're just about building that relationship. So guys, make sure you check Tobin out. He is all over LinkedIn. He is on social media. He's on Facebook. He definitely walks his talk. Big thumbs up approval from Kat, which I don't give very often. So
I appreciate that. And it's likewise, I'm a big fan of what you do. And, it's a thrill for me to even be included in your world and in the podcast this way.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate you.